I get to, not I have to, because you are capable, and you are capable of having everything that you want in this life. But if you have that negative mindset around it, you're going to dig up all of the good seed that you planted.
We're Sahara and Michaela, co-founders of Refine Marketing.
From corporate 9-to-5s to building and scaling multiple million-dollar companies in less than 5 years, we're not afraid to get into the nitty-gritty.
Giving you a raw and real look at what it takes to build and sustain a business.
This is Rise and Refine.
Happy Monday. Welcome back to the Rise and Refine podcast.
Welcome back, y'all. We are excited because the next couple of episodes that you're actually going to listen to, we will be together.
Yay.
So the last two, I would say, we tested out our own podcast studios.
Yes.
Me being in Atlanta, Georgia, Sahara being in Huntsville. We're both in new houses. So we had to technically learn all of the ins and outs of setting up our own podcast studio.
Well, I was alone the last one because you were sick. So welcome back to you.
Thank you.
I was by my lonesome, which is not a good thing because I will go off on a rant.
Yeah, no, you did so good last week, though. I really liked that episode. It's all about real estate if you haven't had the chance to listen to it yet. But today, we're going to be talking about something that applies to literally any industry that you could possibly think of. It also applies to just kind of life and life habits and just bettering yourself.
Well, it was my 2 words for business this year. That's where I came up with it because I was talking to my new agents in a meeting and I was like, here's your 2 words that you have to remember all year.
Yeah.
And it's consistency and discipline. And those are the 2 words for business this year. And so that's where I was like, we should talk about it because it's like, I feel like in business, sometimes you go through like different stages and different words, right? And so those are the 2 words that stood out the most to me for 2025.
I love that. And those are 2 words that we constantly say. I feel like when it comes to us talking on stories on Instagram or us in these episodes, we're always talking about how we can adjust and become more disciplined in certain aspects, which will obviously lead to that consistency because it obviously starts with the discipline as the foundation.
I think it's kind of what's funny about these 2 words is I think it's the 2 words that most entrepreneurs lack. Yeah. So that's why they're my 2 favorite words because I feel like it's the weakness of most entrepreneurs to be consistent and to be disciplined. So I feel like it's 2 words that we need to put up front in our minds to not forget about so that we can actually focus on them and not forget about them. Yeah.
And they're honestly the 2 building blocks to being successful.
Yes.
Just in general, in whatever you're trying to do in life, you have to create a disciplined lifestyle.
Yes.
Which will create the consistency over time. But again, everything is compounded over time. It's not like just one day you're going to be like, yep, I'm going to be disciplined in this because I can guarantee you that you're going to slip up and fail and you're going to have to adjust.
Yes, 1,000%. So I think where we should start, though, is define the 2 words. Okay. So I'll do what I did with my team to you.
Okay.
How would you define consistency?
Consistency?
Yeah.
Consistency is a repetitive action over a course of time.
Yes. And then how would you define discipline?
Discipline is choosing to do the thing that you know you need to do when you don't want to do it.
Those are 2 really good ways.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. I feel like I've done that exercise with myself before. Of like, okay, how do I need to remember this? Because I feel like everybody has their own modes to being disciplined in certain areas.
I think that's a really good way to word both of them. That's probably how I would do it too. I asked my agents to do the same thing. And then I told them, okay, now break it down. How do you choose to be consistent for them in real estate? So how do we choose to be consistent in business? Like what are those things we know we have to be consistent at? And I made them make like a little list so that they could look at it daily. Like what did I write down it's going to take to be consistent? Okay. And then the same with discipline. Like what does discipline look like? So for them, it was like discipline looked like actually adding to their database and logging into their database daily because that's the one thing they don't like doing is keeping up with their database. Yeah. So I feel like every business is different. So you can break it down into, okay, if these are the 2 words I really need to focus on to grow this year, what are the small things I need to do per each word that I can look at to hold myself accountable each day.
So y'all know I love analogies, so I'm going to hit you with another one, but this one pertains to the runners out there. So if you're a runner and I butcher something up, please don't come for me. But I heard this at a conference and it stuck with me, but it's directly related to consistency. And it talks about how you want to keep your effort the same no matter how much variation happens within the pace that you run at. And so she was talking about how she was training for like this ultra marathon, and it's going to be on a crazy course with hills and all this stuff, to where she's going to have to learn to adjust quickly. And there's going to obviously be obstacles in her way that could greatly affect her pace and her mindset towards it. And so she was saying how her run coach was telling her, okay, we need to create a certain level of effort that's going to be sustainable for you to give throughout the entire race, no matter what gets thrown at you, whether that's a hill, whether that's a puddle, whether I don't know what you guys face, but it looks awful. And so she was saying how when she's on a flat piece, she makes sure that the effort that she's putting out is what she can sustain when she goes up a hill.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change. Her pace might change when she's going up a hill. So maybe it's something in your business. Maybe you get hit with a hard client and you aren't really sure how to navigate a situation. Maybe it's something with taxes and you're having to come up with a little bit extra than you maybe thought.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would be in real estate. But you're going up this hill, you're maintaining the same effort, but your pace is changing. And then when you're going down the hill, your pace might want to speed up a little bit, and that's totally fine. That's natural, but your effort is going to maintain the same to where when you hit that flat piece again, there's no change. And so I thought that was so interesting because it talks about specifically consistency. And like, no matter what's going on in your personal life, you're keeping your effort the same in your personal life and in your business.
Yes.
And that doesn't vary. I think that there's so many times where, especially in the first year of Refined, where something would happen in my personal life or in your personal life where it could very easily have derailed us.
Yeah.
But because of the accountability that we had with one another, we're like, okay, I understand that you are struggling with this right now. So I'm going to step up and take this, but I need you to maintain your effort in this.
Yes.
And I think that that is such an important piece of consistency that's not talked about enough.
Why do you think it's so hard? Consistency specifically for most people. Like, what's your opinion? Because I have mine, but I'm curious. Why do you think it's so hard? Because we talk about it, it sounds easy, but most people don't actually stay consistent.
I think it goes back to mindset, and we're trained to have this microwave mentality that we are supposed to put in a little bit of effort and we're going to receive a reward, because everything right now is, you go online, you can get something the next day. You know, you order from Amazon, same day delivery. Yeah. And so we have this microwave mentality that that's what's going to happen in our business.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to look at it. My answer for it is different, but that is a good point too. Mine is that when you are truly consistent, it actually feels uncomfortable and not normal.
Oh, yeah.
And most people don't like the feeling of being uncomfortable. It's easier to live in chaos than to not live in chaos, right?
100%, yeah.
And so that's why so many entrepreneurs, in my opinion, or anybody really have a hard time. Like, you think about working out and stuff when you're on day like 4 or 5, it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go again. I'm sore. It's uncomfortable. Right. But you need to push through. And so I feel like that's, in my opinion, why most people can't stick to the consistency side of things, because it's uncomfortable and they're not willing to be uncomfortable.
Well, I love that, because there's a saying that goes pretty much like, your dreams are on the other side of your comfort zone. And anything that is worth it in life is going to be freaking hard. Yeah. There is no shortcut to success. There is no such thing as an overnight success. I loved this video that Alex Earl posted, and she was talking about how pretty much like people call her this overnight sensation. She just blew up on TikTok, you know, all this stuff. Well, she's been posting YouTube videos since she was like 12, 14. Yeah. And she's stayed consistent in it. And even though it didn't do anything for her until she actually went to college and found TikTok and started showing all different sides of her and showed that, yes, she is a beautiful woman, but she's also hella relatable.
Yes.
And she shows all sides.
Yeah.
I think that is the beauty of behind consistency, or what consistency can bring is a certain level of vulnerability with you and your audience.
Yeah.
And that's going into a different topic entirely, but I thought that was very interesting because you're right. There really is no overnight
success.
There's not anything like that.
There's not. Like, that's funny you bring her up, because I literally listened to a podcast while I was getting ready this morning. They said the same thing. Like, when you start posting, you're not going to look good, sound great. It's not going to be edited right. Like, it's probably going to be, in your opinion, cringy. It's probably not going to be like compared to what you see other people like, post now who do already have success, because you're just starting and you have to learn and you have to grow. And so consistency allows you to gain experience as well, because the more you post, the more you do, the more you learn, the more you work at something, you're gaining a little bit of experience each day, which is going to lead you to the bigger results later on.
Right.
But like you talked about earlier with mentality, what my biggest problem today with a lot of people is their mentality is that they want results now and fast. I get it. I'm an impatient person too, but I promise
That's what
you,
I mean, the microwave mentality. Yeah.
I promise you though, that waiting for things actually feels better. The payoff feels greater. I could have made some mistakes early on in my career being a business owner to get somewhere faster.
Yeah.
I think it would have probably hurt me really, really bad if I wasn't patient and just waited out and was more consistent. So just remember that. Anything else on consistency before we get into discipline?
I think there's a way to look at, well, I don't know if it necessarily applies to consistency or discipline. I think it's just kind of like a well-rounded viewpoint that I have kind of taken in this year. I learned it last year, but taking it in this year because I've noticed how many lazy tendencies I actually have, especially because I was sick last week. Like, there were so many times where I was like, you know what? My body needs to rest. I'm going to let my body rest. Well, I slept until 10 a.m. one day. That is atypical for me. Very not normal. So I was like, okay. But then I was like, all right, well, I could get on my laptop and work right now. But instead, I caught myself doom scrolling for an hour when I said that I wasn't going to be doing that.
Yeah.
And so I just really learned how many lazy tendencies and how easy it is to fall into those lazy tendencies when you have something come against you. That kind of sets you off track.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I thought that was interesting, but where I'm going with that is the fact that you kind of have to change the lens that you're looking at your life through to always see everything as an opportunity and not a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Because you can look at something, say, we've had some clients with Refine that just didn't work out. It was not a good fit for either of us when we first got started. We took them on because we thought we could handle them and thought it would be a good idea. It would be a great portfolio builder, all this stuff. But we ended up not continuing contracts with them. And it ended up being a huge blessing in disguise. But at that time, I was like, are you kidding me? Like flying cuss words, everything, because I was so pissed off because I didn't understand why we couldn't make it work. Yeah. And instead of seeing that as an opportunity, which it ended up being because it opened the door for us to take on a slew of clients a month later that we wouldn't have been able to take on. That ended up being amazing, incredible opportunities for us. But instead I saw it as a disadvantage, and I let that hurt me mentally and probably the growth for us for a couple months. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of an interesting touch because that can lead into like what you are seeing as a disadvantage or an opportunity can lead into, well, am I going to do that thing that's going to create discipline, or am I not going to do it? Or am I not going to do that thing that I am trying to be consistent in, or am I going to choose to not do it because this one thing, I let this one thing derail me?
So what are some ways you feel like you should be disciplined in business? Because I've got mine. Like, one way for me is like to stay disciplined is to make sure I'm always working on my self-development. Because that allows me to grow, and it's something I put off because I'm like, let me just focus on the day to day.
Yeah.
So for me this year, part of my discipline is making sure that I learn and grow and do what I used to.
Gotcha. What you used to be very consistent in those things, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
okay.
with self-development and stuff. And then I just stopped because I'm like, I didn't stay disciplined in it because I focused more on the day to day. I was like, I don't have time for that. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that. So, I mean, y'all hear me talk about my morning routine all the time, but that is something that for me, I have to do in order to set my day up for productivity.
I literally told my agents that.
Really?
I literally said the same thing. I was like, I said, stop listening to all these self-help books that tell you have to wake up at 5 a.m. every day.
No.
Figure out what time you want to wake up and figure out what your routine is and stick to that and stay disciplined at it.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, figure out what time works best for you. I just realized, I talked about it briefly in a previous episode, but I've been waking up at 6:45 for like the past year and a half. Yeah. Well, now I don't have enough time in the day so that when Casey gets home at night for us to have a good dinner and actually like see each other and spend time together. And I want to make sure that I'm not working past 6 o'clock. I need to get up earlier in the morning. So now I'm, trying to get to where I can easily wake up at 6 a.m., but I'm doing it in 15-minute increments. So going from 6:45 to 6:30, 6:30 and so forth. Anywho, so my morning routine is something that I hold near and dear to my heart. But for me, that consists of getting up, getting out of my bed, not staying in my bed, but getting out of my bed.
Not scrolling.
Not scrolling. I don't look at my phone for the first hour of my day. That's something that is
hard.
It's very hard. And it's something that I'm trying to learn discipline in this year for 2025, because I realized that I have a lazy tendency to get stuck in a doom scroll first thing in the morning, but I also realize that it's just rotting my brain because I'll get stuck and then I'll feel less productive. Yeah. And then, or maybe I'll have like a little note of comparison really early in the morning because I see another designer that did something absolutely amazing. And I'm like, oh, like why am I not there yet? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I just try to stay off of my phone for the first hour so that I can actually put good in, so that I'm actually able to pour something out to our audience when I do get on.
You don't want, if you pull up your phone, you may see something terrible and start your day with that versus how you could have chosen to start your day, whether that's listening to a book, journaling, listening to a podcast, something that actually is going to put good into your soul for the day.
Exactly. Yeah. So I have my morning routine, but then I also have my time blocking. So what I have implemented, and I have learned that a very strict time block of like 30 minutes for this, an hour for this, 15 minutes here. Like,
it doesn't work.
I don't work like that. I did that last year and I would get so down on myself because I would miss something by like 15 minutes or go over by 5, and it would set my whole day off.
That's been me so far this year. I had to set a habit to where I don't, like, literally I wrote my goals. We're doing a focus forward challenge on my team.
Oh, I love that.
Where like we have accountability partners and we choose like 5 business goals, but we make them realistic goals. One of mine is to stop booking myself back to back to back and give myself literally, because it like derails my whole day. Like give myself 15 minutes minimum between each thing, because then I've started to be late for everything because it happened to me last week, but I'm like literally this meeting goes over, then I'm late for the next, and I just don't like to be that person. So it's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So I've just started doing to where like I put all of my heavy important work that needs to get done, like I'm talking deliverables. So things that I know I need to be working on that have timelines for the first 4 to 5 hours of the day until like 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then leaving those last couple of hours for anything else that needs to get done that I might not have prepared for the day. Yeah. So that's where I've been trying to stay disciplined in my calendar and really honing in on what that is going to look like for a productivity side of just actually getting what's on my calendar done.
Time management makes a huge difference. And we have done like a whole time management episode, but it makes a huge difference on your business growing and productivity for your whole day. Because if you don't have things blocked off and you don't time manage, you will just get derailed 1,000 different times and get actually not that much done.
No.
And I told, when I was teaching on these two things to my team, I said, what's more important almost than a morning routine is your night routine and how you end your night. Because if you don't end your night,
I'm intrigued by this.
Yeah.
Go into this in more detail.
So if you don't end your night, for example, you want to wake up every morning at 6 a.m. Let's say that, right?
Yeah.
But if you consistently at night go to bed at different times, your body's not going to want to wake up at 6 a.m. Right? Or if you scroll on your phone the night before for 2 hours in bed, then you're going to want to wake up and the first thing you do is you're going to want to scroll. Right? So a lot of what you do right before you go to bed has a lot to with how you wake up in the morning. And it's a really big thing. Like for me, if I don't take off my makeup and do my skincare and have that like 30 minutes of me time at night, I don't wake up as like rested. It's a weird thing.
Oh, I'm the same way. I don't know how. If y'all sleep in your makeup, please do not. But I don't know. I don't know how.
I feel. Yeah, it drives me.
I feel so dirty.
Yes, and so, but if you don't have a very specific night routine, it can derail your whole morning, and then you're like, wait, why did I not wake up? And
I have never thought about the nightly routine.
It's important to have both.
Oh, that makes so much more sense.
Now you need a night routine.
Yeah. Now I definitely need a night routine. So what are some of the things in that you're working to be more disciplined in? Obviously one is the night routine.
I think night and morning and getting back to that consistently because it does make a big difference. I think for me, I don't remember if I talked to you about this, but I listened to a podcast where she talked about like choose the hours of the day, and you kind of just do this already with your time blocking, but choose the hours of the day where you find yourself most productive and make sure you schedule your most important meetings or when you need to get specific stuff done during those hours, because you can be scheduling the wrong meetings or doing the wrong things that don't need your full brain power at those times.
Interesting.
So I'm trying to learn when I have the most brain power. And that's when I do what I feel like is necessarily needs the most brain power.
Yeah.
Like if I'm leading a meeting with 50 people, I need a lot of brain power.
Right.
So I make sure to not schedule things that need a lot of brain power before that.
Right.
Right. And so I'm kind of focusing. That's one of the ways I'm trying to be more disciplined this year is really work on my schedule in a way that's not being dictated by others, but being chosen by me.
Yeah.
When I want to get things done to the best of when they should get done.
Right. And I mean, when somebody comes to you with a meeting request, you have the ability to say no to a time.
Yes.
Like if somebody's like, hey, I have, 12 to 1 open or 3 to 4, and you know that you should not take anything from 12 to 1 because maybe that is like your time to reset in the middle of the day. Maybe that's your workout.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your you time. Maybe that's a very important time for you to get your heavy work done. But then 3 to 4 doesn't work because that's the time where you try to decompress and do some of your lower items on the list.
Yeah.
You have the ability to say no.
And
I want everybody to hear
hard.
that. You have the ability to say no and say, I'm not available during those times on this day, but I am available from 10 to 11 on a Wednesday. Because I think that we fought, especially as women, like we are just people pleasers naturally. And we want to make sure that everybody it's not a good trait.
We want everyone taken care of and happy.
Yes. We want everybody to be happy. And we have the ability as women business owners to say no.
Yes.
And be okay with saying no.
Yes, 1,000%. And I think saying no takes discipline and falls into the discipline category.
Exactly.
Because I'm really bad at that. Really bad. I'll just say yes.
Me too.
I'm like literally like that movie with Jim Carrey, Yes Man. I am a yes woman. Like I will say yes to everything.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely learning that this year. I've said no more than I ever have. And I've gotten more done because of it. You can't give your time to everybody.
Right.
You have to really choose specifically who you give your time to, who's in your circle, and have time for yourself And you can't just be saying yes to everybody and please everybody and allow people just because you're too scared to say no.
Right.
And I did a lot of that last year.
No, but I think that's a really good point though, because like you said, as you get more busy or your calendar fills up, I feel like there's just a different emphasis on time and how you think through time and what time means to you.
Yes.
And that is a huge pet peeve of like when we get into our weekly meetings, our one-on-ones, that's a tip. Like if you have a business owner or you have somebody that's really influential in your business, schedule a weekly meeting with them so that you guys have an hour to touch base, talk about projects, talk about things coming up, deadlines, all that kind of stuff. Because that will also greatly impact your schedule for that week and can help with leading to that accountability piece that comes with the discipline and the consistency that we're talking about. But there's a different emphasis on time as you grow in your business.
Yes.
And when somebody is not respectful of that time, I think that's where me personally, I've gotten to the point where, you know, sometimes somebody will be late to like a coffee date with me. It might be business or personal related, whatever it might be. But if they're late, that means something to me. It's like, why is there not a respect for my time? Yeah. And that can sound so selfish, but at the end of the day, it's like,
we just value our time a very specific way.
Well, and I think it goes back to like, you have to really protect your lifestyle and what you allow into it.
Yes. But giving the grace too, because things do pop up.
Of course,
sometimes I was recently like 15 minutes late to a meeting. And it was because another meeting derailed and there was no way I could end it. So I kept messaging her and I just felt terrible, but luckily she needed the time anyways. But it's like one of those things where sometimes things do happen. People will be late, people, you know, do things, but just respecting, like we are big on respecting other people's time and we expect the same thing back. And that's just us having the discipline of valuing our time and saying no and understanding that it's okay to respect their time. And I think that takes a long time to learn.
It takes a long time. Yeah. And it's, you know, we always go back to the saying of like, what you plant, you're going to reap.
Yeah.
Or you're going to sow. And so whatever you're putting out there, you're going to eventually get back. You don't know when it's going to come back to you, but if you're putting the good out there, if you're respecting people's time, if you're showing up 5 minutes early for meetings, you know, if you have everything prepped to go and whatever it might be, you're going to receive that back and there's going to be that respect given to you. And so even if you feel like you're kind of stuck in your business or maybe things aren't moving in the direction, as long as you're doing those little things, those little nodes of discipline, you're planting good seed and you will reap the benefits of that. So just keep that in mind as well. Your journey is so unique to you, but you deserve like everything that's coming your way.
1,000%. And the last little nugget, and then we'll end it there, because you talked about like the one-on-ones and stuff that I want to give to people, because this is something I didn't do that I stopped doing. And then I did it and I haven't been disciplined in it, but I noticed it makes a huge difference in time. And that's prepping for meetings, like whether that's 5 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Don't come to a meeting unprepared. Prep what you want to talk about, what you want to accomplish. Especially if you have a team, we have like a shared board and I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to go through in our meetings. So you better have it updated and prepped and prepared so that we move along. Because I noticed that a 2-hour long meeting can actually be 30 minutes with 15 minutes of prep.
Yeah. That's a really, really good nugget.
Yeah.
And then the very last thing that I want to say, and this is just like just a mental nod to what we just talked about with consistency and discipline. It's instead of thinking I have to, think I get to.
Yes.
And making that mental
huge
switch.
mindset.
Because there's going to be so many things in your business that you just plain do not want to do.
Yeah.
But having that switch of I get to, because you went after your dream, you're doing something that is outside of the norm. You're defying generational odds and breaking generational curses. And you are creating a lifestyle for your family that you might didn't get to have when you were a child. That is going to take consistency. It's going to take consistent effort.
Yes.
And it's going to take
discipline.
straight up hard discipline.
Yeah.
I get to, not I have to, because you are capable and you are capable of having everything that you want in this life. But if you have that negative mindset around it, you're going to dig up all of the good seed that you planted.
All right. We have to end it.
Okay. All right. Well,
before she goes off on a rant.
I know I will go off on so many other things.
Yes. End it for us, Michaela.
All right. Well, if y'all like this episode, please subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a comment and please like this episode or like the Rise and Refine podcast, because that shows that our content is good. Y'all are really liking it.
Leave a review on Spotify.
Yes. Please let us know what you like. You can follow us at Rise and Refine podcast on Instagram or at Refine Marketing _ if you want to see our brand and web design studio. And y'all have a great week, and we'll see you next Monday.
Happy Monday.